I'm the Honey Badger, giving it to you straight and transparent about the RV business. Lots to cover today. There were a lot of questions that came in that I'm going to answer. There's a lot going on with the used RV market, and there's some mistakes being made by the factories again. But before I get started and all that, two things. Number one, thank you so much for your support. Those that watch it live, those that watch it afterward, thank you for all your support. Thank you for the growth. I know it's not like I'm like going to 100,000 people that follow this channel anytime soon, but for those of you that have been consistent on this, I'd really like to thank you for all the support. Number two, I'd like to congratulate Pete Legal. Pete Legal is the CEO of Forest River RV, and it seems like, I don't know if I have anything to do with it, obviously I don't, but it sure seems like I've been kind of yelling and screaming to high heaven on the podcast and here on the live stream about getting younger at the factory level. Now, they didn't get much younger because the guy they appointed to kind of be his so-called successor isn't very young himself, but he is younger. I think that the CEOs of these big factory corporations need to start going away. They need to start going off to that private island, that cabin up in the mountains. We need to get the stuff dealer is a loyal dealer mindset out of the industry. That mindset will definitely, getting rid of that mindset is a step forward in the right direction. And pretty much Pete Legal, even though he is staying as CEO, according to the business article on rvbusiness.com, he is stepping away from the majority of his job and has given it to different levels of management. So congratulations, Pete. I did hear that Pete's not in very good health. That probably has something to do with it. Of course, he is getting up there in age. There were several questions that came in this week, actually over the last 3 weeks, that people keep asking a very similar question. So I'm going to form the question together because people have used different verbiage, but it's the same question. And that question is, which RVs are not a piece of crap? That's like a lot of people's concerns. Okay. Well, number one, I'm going to say this. Not every RV built is a pile of crap. Period. I don't care what Armageddon level YouTubers tell you. I don't care what clickbait thumbnail you see. I don't care what clickbait title you see. Not every RV that comes out of a factory is a pile of crap. And you can argue with me about it all you want. But until you've actually been there and building them, until you've actually talked to every single customer that has purchased one over the last 30 years, you can't say that every one of them is a pile of crap. What we can say for certain is this frame failure and frame flex problem that Grand Design is allegedly having. We are at a point where people are very mistrusting of the RV industry. Okay? Extremely mistrusting. Is that okay? Yes. That's fine. But if you're going to put your life on hold because 5% or 8% or whatever the real percentages of RVs have some sort of Armageddon level problem. All I can say is, I feel bad for you. This is why I always tell people that come and pick up a coach that I've sold them, is we're going to do a proper walkthrough. We're going to make sure the fridge works. We're going to make sure the AC works. We're not going to rush you through it. The only time it gets rushed is when you rush it. Hi, everybody. If you rush it, then that's on you. You don't always have to hire a third-party inspector. A lot of third-party inspectors out there just are after your money. They're going to knock off every little cosmetic thing on a coach. I've watched it happen. I sold a brand new fifth wheel a couple years ago. Gorgeous fifth wheel. It had its problems, you know, little scratch here, little scratch there. Normal stuff that happens when you have Santa Ana conditioned winds. Okay? Normal stuff. That's why we discounted it so much. And we plainly told the customer, me, the other salesperson, the manager, and the service guy, we're not going to fix anything cosmetic, but we'll make sure everything works. We'll make sure everything is in good shape. You're buying it $10,000 back of the original invoice. You're getting a good deal. Third-party inspector comes out with a thick, huge thing of things wrong with the fifth wheel. Well, the customer didn't read through it. All they saw was this thick thing and assumed it just had a million problems. No, it didn't. Because the next customer that owned it still owns it, has enjoyed every minute of it, has had small little minor things like the water heater circuit board and a refrigerator circuit board, and those were handled and the customer's happy. Because that thick thing was made up of mostly cosmetic stuff. Oh, there's a scratch on the cabinet. Oh, there's a chip on the paint. Oh my God, they didn't cut the door exactly even. It's like off by 1/8 of an inch. That's their job. They're making money. They're charging you money. This is why when I say, when you hire a third-party inspector, because this is a really big question I get. When you hire a third-party inspector, give them specifics of what you want them to look for. Okay? If it's a used unit, obviously you're going to say batteries and, you know, if it's got a generator, you know, things of that nature, right? Give them a specific list. I don't care about the paint job, or I don't care about the cabinetry. I don't care about scratches in this and scratches in that. I'm buying a deal. I want to know if the roof is secure. I want to know if the frame is in good shape. I want to know if the auto level system works. I want to know if the hydraulics work. I want to know if A, B, C, D, and E work. Okay? You have to be specific because they're locked. Oh, and if you're an auto mechanic, please don't kick my butt. But my dad was an auto mechanic, and I learned from watching my dad, there's 3 types of auto mechanics. And one of the types is the guy that will do anything and everything to make a buck. And there's a lot of third-party inspectors that are out there just to make a buck. There's a lot of third-party inspectors that are retired. So you have to be specific with these folks. That way, when they go inspect a unit, you're going to get the report you really want. You're not going to get the stickle thing of everything cosmetically wrong with it. And you're going to go, hey, wow, you could go inspect the cosmetics yourself. That's the cool part. When you're going to do a walkthrough on a brand new fifth wheel, brand new travel trailer, brand new motorhome, you're going to get to go do a walkthrough. You get to walk through and see all the cosmetic stuff after it gets cleaned up. So why pay somebody extra to go look at cosmetics when you can say, hey, look, this is all I want you to go through. This is what I want you to do. Okay? Oh man, I picked a heck of a spot to do this. Yeah, there you go. So this is why I've been saying for a very long time, one answer is not the complete answer. One idea is not the only idea. This is why I get so upset about the Armageddon level YouTubers, and why I want to slap upside the head the sunshine and rainbows YouTubers, because the expectations are so lopsided. It's like our politics in the United States. It's so lopsided. You're either extreme left or extreme right. You're either extremely prejudiced against the RV industry, or you think it's the greatest thing on God's green earth. I mean, there's no real balance to it. There's no like, hey, guys, we had a great time camping. We had a little problem with a piece of plumbing. The P-trap on the shower went bad, but hey, you know what? We didn't let it ruin our trip, and the service center got it fixed. Imagine this, guys. Let's say that this is something I've been trying to communicate to a lot of folks out there that are upset about the service level of things. And while I completely agree with people that are upset about Grand Design, because Grand Design right now does not have the best reputation amongst a lot of its owners, meaning people that have bought and have camped in the newer Grand Design stuff, 2018 and newer, are not very happy. And now they have a voice. Now they have Facebook groups to talk about it. They have safe spaces where they can vent their frustration. So I want to set Grand Design RV aside for a second. Let's just move them out of the way for a minute, okay? Let's move Keystone High Country out of the way, because we know that's the third most with the frame failure thing, right? Set them all aside for a minute. How many rigs do you think a service center deals with a year between sales, warranty, customer pay, etc.? How many do you think a big Camping World, I'm not defending Camp World, I'm just saying, how many do you think, okay? Hi, Karen. How many do you think are serviced a year? Well, I know at a small dealership, if they sell 250 rigs a year to the general public, and they've been there for 10 years, they're probably servicing 600 or 700 rigs a year. So when they have 600 or 700 rigs a year that they service, and they have 10 one-star reviews because of parts and service problems, what's the percentage of people that are upset? What is the percentage of people that are pissed? What's the percentage of the people that were pissed? It got resolved, so they decided not to leave a review. These are the type of things that I'm trying to get out there to people, okay? Because the long and short of it, when it comes down to the long and short of the whole thing is we have to understand that the internet is a place for people to go complain. Okay? Hell, let's use me as an example. I'm a great example of that. I started the podcast so I could complain, so I could vent my frustrations. The podcast, not this channel, but the podcast channel, I started that a couple of years ago, 2 years ago now, so I could vent my frustration about the RV industry. Hi, Brian. What Keys? How you doing? Been a while. So just imagine how many other people use the internet as a venting tool. Oh, I'm going to get those guys. I'll give you a great example. This was something I was told by not a friend, but an acquaintance of mine. I was on the phone. We were chit-chatting about the frustrations we're all having with, you know, the banks and the credit unions and things like that, because it's like one day we can get an 800 score done, the next day we can't. One day we can get a 598 FICO score done, one day we can't. And that's just a mixed bag of all the garbage out there. That's why a lot of dealers out there are just, instead of going, okay, we're going to send it to one bank, they're saying to 3 or 4 now, because it's like, we don't know what's going to happen. So we just might as well just send it all out at once, right? But we were chit-chatting and he goes, oh yeah, you know, I screwed up and I blew out my tire going off-road in my Toyota Tacoma, and they won't replace it under warranty. And I go, well, you blew out the tire. He goes, oh, I know, but I'm going to get him to replace it. And the best way to get him to replace it is keep leaving 1-star reviews everywhere. So get mad, get angry, and then leave a 1-star Google, a 1-star Facebook, a 1-star Yelp. And I go, you're just like everyone else. You complain to me when people leave 1-star reviews to try to get something out of you. You're doing the same damn thing to a car dealer. And he sat there, he goes, oh yeah, I am, huh? And I go, so you use the same bloody tactics that the customers sometimes use, not all, but some of them use to get what they want or get something extra out of things. And you're doing the same bloody thing. That's right, we got to vent somewhere. So we have to take the venting with a grain of salt, okay? I would take, if a dealership has a perfect record and 5-star reviews all the way around, no 1-star reviews, something's wrong. There's no way that nobody complained. There's no way every person got a 5-star service. That goes for restaurants. That goes for car dealerships. That goes for Walmarts. That goes for retail places. That goes for products in general. If everything is so perfect, something's probably wrong. You know, now, because not everybody's going to be satisfied. I know that. Okay. I have a 4.5-star rating on Facebook on the marketplace. I have, I think now 75 reviews. I have 4.5 stars. I've got, I think 5 or 6 1-star reviews from Marketplace. And a lot of it has to do with people that lived in other states that can't title their coach because they didn't want to finance it. They wanted to pay cash. They wanted to avoid California or Nevada or Washington or whatever state's income sales tax. And they want to, like 4 of the people want to go to do a Montana LLC and found out it's harder than they thought it was going to be. And because I no longer work for the dealership that I worked for when I sold them, I had to pass them on to somebody else. I have nothing to do with it. And so I get a 1-star review. And in those 1-star reviews that they gave me, they called me all kinds of nasty names. And they leave nasty comments in my YouTube videos every once in a while. And they leave nasty comments on my Instagram every once in a while because they're upset because they want to cheat the government out of money instead of doing things the right way. And now they're having a tough time titling their coach, and they probably end up with a couple of tickets or had some issues. So we don't know what the real story is behind anybody's 1-star review. I've seen folks that put 1-star reviews because that store is a competitor of theirs. I've seen people put 5-star reviews because they work there and they're paid to put a 5-star review. So reviews about products, reviews, and this is not just the RV industry. This is every industry. But we're talking specific about RVs. Reviews only give you half of the story. Now let me grab my little note thing here. I made a note to myself. So I challenged people on the podcast and on the last live stream to go online to YouTube, go incognito, and put every brand of fifth wheel and put how many videos came up for frame failure, frame flex That was actually about that brand, not about Grand Design or Keystone or etc. Okay. Sorry about the bright sun, guys, and the reflection. Social media reviews amaze me. I don't know the review until you're getting take. You're right. Got an appointment Tuesday morning at Cherokee for factory tour 350-15. Nice. Keep me appraised of that, random or not. Keep me appraised of that. Don't think I'm not. I read your texts and I read your Instagram direct messages, so don't think you know. I don't really understand. Exactly. I don't blame you, Mark. I really don't. Okay, so going back to what I was saying. So here it is. So Keystone, Montana. One guy actually did this and sent me this. He said the email read to me. I can't read it because it's on my phone, but the email read, "Hey, I took your challenge and decided to actually do it." He says, "I got through all of Jayco, Forest River, Keystone, and Northwood Manufacturing, which is Arctic Fox." He says, "Okay, so Keystone, Montana, high country, I found 5 videos total about frame failure, frame flex." And he says, and 3 of the 5 videos were from the same creator. Okay. Keystone, Montana, I found 3 videos, one from 2019, one from 2022, and one a little earlier than that, probably it said 7 years ago on the actual video. I did this under incognito. And then he put a note, and then I wrote the note down. The note says, here's what is interesting is every time I Google or YouTube search and I put the word frame failure or frame flex with a brand, a bunch of your videos pop up, a bunch from other people that have had big problems with their Grand Design RVs come up. Says a lot of the frame failure and frame flex videos out there are mainly Grand Design. I found a couple of Jaycos here and there. I did find a couple of Forest River here and there. So I decided to watch the videos. Watching the videos, he discovered that a lot of the folks got their coach resolved. Not everyone, because there's some people that he watched that were Keystone or Jayco or Forest River, etc., that there was no solution video. There was no aftermath video. It's kind of like it went to a certain point and then just cut off. Okay. And some of that might be a non-disclosure agreement, which is a possibility. But the reality is they didn't remove the videos. The videos are still there, but there was just no conclusion on some of them. But he said a lot of them had a conclusion. Several people were bought out of their rig by the manufacturer. Several people had traded the rig in or arranged to trade in through the manufacturer to a dealer. Some of them, he said a lot of them got repaired and did not have a problem after the repair. Specifically, he mentioned 4 Forest River fifth wheels, one being a Riverstone, one being a Rockwood, one being a Columbus, Palomino Columbus, which is a Forest River product, and the other one was a River Ranch, which is again a Palomino product. So you had four fifth. By the way, 2 out of the 4 fifth wheels don't have lippered frames, or did not at the time. So the reality is all 4 of those have been fixed, and the people are happy and nothing's wrong. They got solution videos out of it. So very interesting how, if you go and do this exercise, you start finding out that not every fifth wheel has frame failure. Not every fifth wheel built has frame flex. But that doesn't mean we should not acknowledge the problems, okay? But we need to acknowledge where the problems are directed. They are predominantly with a company that put itself on a pedestal, okay? It's like, how I like to say things is, it's like Weekend Warrior back in the day. And I've said this on the podcast. Weekend Warrior zoomed to the top of the world as the best toy hauler made in the industry and went crashing down just as fast, if not a lot quicker. And a lot of that has to do with customer service, the understanding of where you're going and how you're going to get there. Now, the biggest difference is Weekend Warrior was not owned under a corporate umbrella like Grand Design is. So a lot of these factories are making a lot of big mistakes with this customer servicing. I don't think they understand fully what it means to be of service to someone. Simply answering the phone and reading a script isn't helpful. Blaming people, and this is a general statement, this isn't directed just at Grand Design, this is directed at all RV factories, okay? Trying to blame a problem on the consumer, on the roads, on the dealer, on random acts of accidents that never happened, those type of things in the long run are going to hurt you. Because to me, it's about the campfire conversation, okay? Hello, Basic Mom. The campfire conversation is the most important conversation that dealers need to be worried about. Screw the internet, screw YouTube, screw all that stuff, okay? Yes, I want to make a living on YouTube, but screw YouTube for a second. Everybody gets together at these rallies, right? I'm going to go to FMCA pretty soon. I'm going to the Portland RV show. I'm going to go to Tampa Bay RV show. There's a lot of things I'm going to be a part of now that I'm independent, right? And I'm not managing a store anymore, okay? But the reality is we need to understand what the campfire conversation is. And right now, that campfire conversation amongst dealers is horrible. And that campfire conversation around Grand Design owners is not very good either. Okay. Now, I feel really bad for the brand ambassadors for Grand Design products. I do. When you get signed, see, this is why I haven't, this is a lot of reasons why I don't get involved with a specific brand and promote it. Outside of Genesis Supreme RV, really, and even then I bash Pablo every once in a while. I really don't like favor anybody. I don't bash the crap out of everybody, but I don't favor anybody. And the biggest reason why is because, let's just say Pete Legal calls me up and says, hey, I want to hire you and your media company to do Forest River exclusive stuff for a year. Okay. Well, if everything I do reputation wise goes through Forest River, and Forest River has allegations of roofs collapsing or floors collapsing or major frame failure like Grand Design is allegedly having, right? Then I'm put in a really difficult spot. And this is where it's tough. Like, you got guys that are, and this is something I was talking to, I'm now kind of consider him a friend over Instagram. I've been chit-chatting with him because he's a big YouTuber in this RV space. And I told him yesterday that I feel bad for a lot of guys at his level because you kind of got involved in these corporations and these corporate stuff. And now if something goes wrong with a product, so give you an example, if you're a YouTuber and you're affiliated with a corporate dealership like a Camping World or a Lazy Days or a Bish's or a General RV or a RV Fun Town or a Blue Compass, if you're like tied into these guys somehow and they carry a product that's absolutely a joke right now, aka all the arguments and all the problems with Grand Design RV, you're put in a situation where your livelihood is at stake. Because if you say something that doesn't equate with your legal team or the legal team of the manufacturer, you could get sued, right? Good evening, Etsamia. it's like we got to get to a point in our lives where we have an understanding that even though I get mad and I get very upset at these corporate RV dealership YouTubers, and I get mad at them because of the way they used to be versus what they are now, I also understand that they are in a very bad position. But at the same time, they put themselves in that position. There's a lot of things we can do as influencers in the RV space where we could still make a living. I mean, it's going to take me another 3 or 4 years before I can make a decent living at this. But there's a way for me to make a decent living and not be permanently attached to a corporation to handcuff myself of things I can say and can't say. So that's like one reason why, I think that's one of the other reasons why a lot of these big corporations don't approach me, because they kind of know from watching the content that I'm not going to do. I mean, I'll come aboard. If Marcus Lemonis calls me and says, hey, I want you to brand yourself with Camping World, I'd talk to him about it. But there's going to be a conversation of, I ain't going to hold back. And your legal team is going to have a field day. And the brands that are on your lot are going to, excuse my language, but they're going to shit bricks. Right? So, you know, that's where I'm kind of trying to like tell them, like, I understand. I've been there, you know, that's why I've taken the slow route, right? I'm not taking the quick route. So, very interesting. Hold on, where's my notes? Because I've been making notes on back of receipts of gas stations and fast food. Actually, I quit eating the fast food. I'm starting to get a little heavy. Okay, here's another note I made myself for today's live stream, okay? There are a lot of questions about interest rates dropping in September. I don't think anybody understands how that would work, okay? So one of the things that I've noticed in August, talking to dealerships, talking to reps, talking to vending guys, talking to shipping and transportation people this last 2 weeks, the industry came to a stop. Now, when the industry came to a stop, a lot of that had to do with the media saying that rates are going to drop in September. There's going to be 2 to 4 rate cuts by March of next year. Don't hold your breath, okay? I just had this conversation with some guys, God, not 45, 50 minutes ago, okay? If interest rates do go down in September, and I highly doubt they will, but let's say it goes down. Let's say they go down 1/4 point, okay? It will not affect your payment on an RV. It'll affect your payment roughly by about $6. $6 to $12. So if you were quoted a payment of $362, you might have a payment of $350. It's not going to affect it that much, okay? Let's say by March of 2025, this is a note I made, that interest rates went from an average rate of 8.49 to an average rate of 7.49, it would affect your payment between $24 and $37 a month. Okay. Now, if interest rates went from 8.49 to 5.49 by March of 2025, it would affect your payment between $72 and $111 a month. Now, Here's what's going to happen, though. Happens every time everybody waits for rates to drop. So what I did was I recalculated and adjusted it. I made small mathematical notes here. If you wait and interest rates go down to 5.5 in March of 2025, you waited. That means that dealerships will have raised their profit margin to around 12 to 15%. That means that dealerships would go from a 4% profit margin, which is the average nationwide right now, to around 12. Okay? So that's 8% higher profit margin because now rates have gone down. Okay? Now, what that does is if you accumulate a $50,000 loan or cost, 8% increase in profit margin, and a decrease of interest rate of 3%, it saves you $26 a month. So while you might be paying more principal, you saved $26. Now, let's say you buy the rig at the 4% margin now, and you refinance it to 5.5. You would save, and this is a $50,000 loan, and you shrunk the term, kept the same payment, shrunk the term with your credit union. It would save you over the course of the loan $16,200 in interest and principal. Meaning you're going to save about $8,000 in interest and about $7,000 to $8,000 on the purchase price of the rig. Because remember, when rates go down, prices are going to go up. Housing prices are going to go up. RVs will go up. Cars will go up. It'll happen that quick. Negotiations will be almost nothing. Because now payments are, well, the interest rate went down. So I saved a bunch of money on interest. But you're paying more money for the rig. That's why I've been saying since August of 2022, I am on record. August 2022 till today, August of 2024, do not wait for rates to drop to buy the RV. You're not going to save much on the payment. You're going to pay more for the rig. You save more money buying now. Because over the long haul of the loan, you can always refinance it. You pay a lower, that's why they raised interest rates. They raised interest rates to put pressure on prices. It backfired on them in the real estate market, but it worked in the boat, the auto, and the RV industry. So it worked in the depreciating asset industries, but not in real estate because too many people had 2% and 3% loans on their houses. So if you at the end of the day can get a better price today, but a higher rate today, when rates go down, if rates go down, you're going to be laughing at everybody else that spent more money because they weren't going to buy because rates were too high. Now, there are some people, it's a principle of the thing. They'd rather pay more money and a better rate. There were a lot of people like that back in 2014, 2015. Rates were pretty damn low. They were like in the 4% range back then when I was in the industry back then. You know, you can go out and quote somebody 399, 4.25, 4.5. They were happy to pay the higher price to get the lower rate. I'm in. I understand. Totally get it. When I first got in the industry at 16% interest, you had the people that didn't care about 16% because they were buying the stuff so cheap. And then when rates went down to 4, 4.5, 4.75, they went and refinanced it. That's the message I have for you folks, and I've had for 2 years. When you wait for interest rates to go down, you pay more money for stuff. Companies make more money on products when interest rates are lower. Companies make less profit when interest rates are higher. Northwood's a good one, Edward Davis. They're a really good manufacturer. I like Arctic Foxes. So that's where you have to kind of, you're never going to get the perfect scenario. It will never happen. I will tell you what happens. If Jerome Powell announces on September 15th that rates are going to go down 2%, that day dealers will go online and raise their prices. You'll never walk into the dealer when rates are low and prices are low. It will never happen. You're either an interest rate buyer or you're a price buyer. You're not both. You can't be both. That's in housing, that's in cars, that's in boats, that's in anything you buy. All these techniques they try to teach you, just tell them you're going to pay cash or tell them you don't know what you're going to do. We're going to play games. Let's play games. Okay. But the minute you play games and you're not honest with yourself about what kind of buyer you are, it's hard to get a good deal. I know guys that play the I only care about the out the door price. And those guys get home runned every time. The salesperson's in Tahiti every time somebody worries about the out the door price. It's an entire piece of the pie. What kind of buyer are you? Are you a price buyer? Are you a trade? If you have a trade-in, what's the box that matters the most? The box that matters the most to you is the focus of what it should be. I'm an interest rate buyer. Perfect. Sit out for another year or two. It ain't going to happen anytime soon. Okay? I'm a price buyer. Great. Perfect opportunity to get the best price possible right now. You missed the crash. You missed that a year ago. And every day you wait, it's just going to get worse for you. So today is the best day to get the best price. Right now, while rates are high. You're a trade-in buyer. What I call trade-in is you got to trade, you got to trade that your ego won't tell you you're upside down, but your heart knows that you're upside down. And so you're what I call a cash down buyer, meaning you don't really, even though you do care what you're getting for your trade, at the end of the day, it's about cash. How much cash can I save where I don't have to put down? Who can work with my small down payment? Okay. Who is smart enough to understand what they're doing to get me out of the rig I hate and get me in the rig I love? You just have to figure out which is the most important. Once you got that box conquered, the rest of it you can just nitpick at. Take another $500 off. Oh no, I'll do it for another $20 less a month. You know what? Instead of $5,000 down, I'll give you $4,500. Then you can get that nitpicky stuff out of the way once you've got the box you want done. It makes an easier, faster negotiation where you get the best deal possible without hassles, without back and forth. Now, there are some guys that you have to go back 4 or 5 times before they feel like they got the best deal. And they got to run out to their car and you chase after them to make sure that he got the right deal. That game playing has never been my thing. I hate that crap. I hate that crap so much that I've watched guys get in their car, drive off, and I'm sitting there on the porch of the dealership going, anybody got at the time I smoked cigarettes, anybody got a Marlboro and a light? And then like 20 minutes later, they come back, go, why didn't you chase after us? I don't play that game. I told you I only do 2 passes. After the second pass, we're not even close. Go home. You're not. We don't have the right product at the right price for you. Light my cigarette and smoke. I'm almost done with the book. I think I'll be done with it right after, probably, because the guy that's going to help me publish it or teach me how to publish it, I have a meeting with him on September 20th. So it should be sometime after that. That's true, Mark Thompson. Yep. Yeah, see, it's Mia who's got it. You got it. There you go. Yeah, it's just, life's too short for this crap. You know, I mean, if you're 25 years old, fine. Play games. I'm 40 now. I mean, a lot of you are going to say, well, you're still young. Yeah, I don't feel young. Look at all that gray in the beard and gray in the hair and, shit, I don't feel young. Doesn't mean I'm not semi-young. I mean, I am not a young guy, but it's just I don't feel young. But that's kind of the things that, I guess everybody has to kind of come to grips their own thing. Right? We have a problem as human beings. And the problem is we're taught from a very young age, save your money. Save your money for a rainy day. Yeah, barely. The hair is falling out, Blair. Trust me. Look, I'm starting to get like a receding hairline. Trust me, it falls out daily. Anyway, we have a problem of we were taught as young. Man, if I knew what I knew now, when I was 25, this YouTube channel would be at 1 million subscribers. We would be in another dimension right now. Okay, we would be talking about what airline I'm being dropped off by and what Uber and hotel I'm staying at for the next event. Okay, we'd be selling out show tickets to do, teach people how to do this stuff, right? Teach dealers, teach consumers, etc., right? Yeah, there you go. We have a problem about save your money. Don't spend your money. Save it for a rainy day. Save it for a rainy day. Man, if I knew what I knew now, life would be different. But I'm glad I know it now, and I don't know when I'm 55. At least I know it now I'm at 40. But still. No alcoholic beverage because I'm driving Uber tonight, so I can't drink. All right. Where's my last little note? Well, there it is, written on my little receipt here. Okay. Oh, I did have the September 20th. I have the thing for the book. I already mentioned that. Oh, so the other thing that I was asked several times in the last 2 weeks was, why is it that dealerships that own used inventory want more money down on a trade-in than on a new one? So here's a scenario. This is the easiest scenario because I've already talked to this person over the phone. So I talked to him and kind of explained it to him, okay? So they were attempting to buy a 2014 Winnebago Journey diesel pusher. They have a 2020 Keystone Cougar travel trailer. They owe $41,000 on it. They bought it for $47,000 and put only $2,500 down. So they owe 41 grand. This means that they've made some large principal payments, okay? So that means they're adding money on top. They're not just paying interest, okay? The wholesale book, what the lender value on it, meaning what the lenders are going to lend based on, or the number they're going to use to evaluate amount of money, was $24,200. So if it's in perfect shape, they're upside down roughly $15,000. Okay. The Winnebago Journey, they wanted the $15,000 are upside down, plus another $35,000 down on a motorhome that was selling for $125,000, and it was a consignment. It was not something that was owned by the dealership. It was a consignment by a customer. So I try to explain this. So the best way to explain this is, first of all, it's over 10 years old, so the bank's going to lend differently than they would if it was brand new. Meaning, let's say that the book on it was $120,000, as an example, okay? That's what the lending book is. At that point, the bank will want to be back of that. They'll want to finance a lot less than 120 because it's over 10 years. It's just over 10 years old. So let's say after tax, title, license, you're at 135, and let's say the bank sells the dealer, will do 100 grand on it. That means that you need to come up with the difference figure of that, which is roughly about $50,000. So that's where the 35 grand and the 15 grand comes from. Now they're working with $20,000 cash. Okay. So what I did was I sent them to, because they live in Texas, I sent them to a dealership I knew about in Oklahoma. Ain't that far from them. You know, Red River rivalry and everything. Okay. And they had a leftover 2023 Winnebago Journey. Now, here's what's interesting. The payment that they were quoted that they got approved for through a credit union on the 2014 was $1,611 a month. The Winnebago Journey they went and bought with their 20, and that, by the way, that was $50,000 down. With $20,000, which they actually had to come up with an additional 10, so at $30,000 down, their payment is $2,154 on a brand new one, and they're out of their Cougar. Okay. And you're probably wondering, well, that's not much more. I mean, that's a big jump. It's $600, almost $650 more a month for a new one, but $25,000 or $20,000 less cash down. Longer term, obviously. But thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. But long story short, you got to look at the bigger picture. Just because a coach is cheaper doesn't mean it's easier to get you out of your rig. Just because, let's say you owe $80,000 on your trade and you're buying an $80,000 unit, that doesn't mean you just get to swap loans. The car industry is very different because the car industry has lease programs. Okay. I've seen a lot of people that are extremely buried in their cars. And because, like, maybe they're not traveling as much, maybe their commute got knocked down a little bit, they've gone to a lease. Because when you go to a lease, you just turn the car in. You're done. And you start fresh. And a lot of these dealers are trying to convert people to leases to get them out of their trades they're upside down in. So that way, in 3 years, they have a fresh customer. Maybe they buy out their lease. Maybe they just turn it in and get another car. A lot of that little going around. We don't have that in the RV industry. And the last thing on this little card I wrote, I was sent an email. I think it was an instant message through, a direct message through Instagram. And it says, you've been complaining about rebates. Alliance RV came out with a $2,024 rebate on a lot of their products. Blair, there's no equity if you don't trade it. You guys go back to my finance videos, I explain that really good. If you're upside down, wholesale, $15,000. That's if nothing's wrong. It's in perfect condition. You're upside down 10, 11 grand retail. There is no equity. The only time you have equity is if you put 30 or 40% down plus tax and license. So let's say you bought a $100,000 motorhome, you're putting $30,000 down plus covering your tax and license. That's when you drive off with equity. Not one time in my 15 years that I can think of has anybody had real actual equity that wasn't manipulated or faked. There's a lot of people that break even. Most people are upside down. And they're upside down both retail and wholesale. Especially right now with the people that bought during COVID. So just kind of keep that in mind, okay? All right. It's going to be a kick butt week. Podcast. I'll be live on the podcast channel tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And they do pay them off eventually, Blair. But when they pay them off, they are upside down. You lose money. No matter what. When people pay them off, it doesn't give them equity. It has a value to it. So if you bought a $100,000 rig and you paid cash, you're never going to sell it for 100 grand. Okay. Equity really doesn't exist in anything. Equity is a term to make people feel better. What it is a value. So the real value of something versus what you spent on it. I'll give you an example. Great one for you guys, okay? This is great. This will scare you away from ever buying a house again, okay? It's why I'll never buy a house again unless I'm going to pay cash, okay? When you take a mortgage out, go look at the percentage of money that's interest only. Then combine that with how much you spend in property tax, insurance, fixes. Unless you pay cash for a house, you will never have real equity. Inflation gives you a better value or valuation on the property. And you might pay down the loan over 10 years, and you might have plus so much cash flow. You might have positive cash flow out of the property, but you will never, ever compete unless your house stays perfect, unless you never pay property tax, unless you never pay interest, unless you never pay insurance. It is really hard to have real, actual equity in your home or in anything. That's a word that is a great psychological word for anybody, so that way they feel good about a purchase. Negative equity, positive equity, doesn't matter. It's a verbiage word to create an emotional response. It's a psychological response. If they came up to you and said, hey, look, you know, your house, you paid $500,000 for. But in the first 5 years of the mortgage, you only paid down, let's say, 25 grand of the principal or 30 grand of the principal, as an example. But the house is worth 550 or 560 or 580 or even 600 after those 5 years. Take into consider how much you paid in interest. Take how much in consideration you paid for property insurance and property taxes. You may be even at that house at 600 grand. Now, if you pay down 30 grand, you have $130,000 of cash flow. You have $130,000 of cash available, but you never really got equity out of it. Most people, if you didn't buy it during the boomers, and if you didn't buy your house back when they were $40,000 or $50,000, really there's not a lot of equity in these things. Okay, equity went out the door as soon as the NAFTA agreement was signed by Bill Clinton. Gone. Everything since 1995, it's all fugazi, it's all fake. It's all bullshit. Okay. And look, I'm not here to debate or argue politics. Okay. The NAFTA agreement, if you go back to the early 1990s and the mid 1990s, the position they were all in, it made sense to them. Okay. It made sense to every side of the political aisle. It made sense to the United States of America citizens. It made sense to Canadians and Mexicans. It made sense to everybody. Nobody knew it was going to destroy the U.S. economy over time and destroy the middle class. Nobody could have really predicted that right there in that moment when it was done. But after the NAFTA agreement was signed, real equity, real actual valuation went into the toilet. Because now inflation went sideways. They just controlled it a little bit better. Yeah, exactly. When we buy something, see, this is why I always say, I use the word, like if an EMP attack occurred and wiped out everybody's bank accounts tomorrow, and there was no billionaires, no millionaires, it's what you own that's going to be important, plus the skills you have that's going to be important. Not how much money you have in the bank, not how much equity you have. Okay? That's all just a control item to help you sleep at night. That when you bought a house, it was an investment that's going to help you retire. Or it's an investment to help you with a tax write-off or a tax deduction. There's verbiage out there that's all horse manure. I actually get a bigger tax break because of my company, because of my media company. I get a bigger tax break renting a house than I do owning a house, even at the high interest rates. The interest rate write-off I get on a home is not nearly even close to what I can write off renting a place under my company, under a 1099, even as an independent contractor. Okay. So when you talk, this is why, like, guys that talk financial stuff on YouTube, a lot of them don't even understand it, or they choose not to talk about it because that's a hard subject to talk to people about. You mean I've worked 30 years and paid the 30-year mortgage and you're telling me I did it for nothing? Well, no. When you own a house and you're going to stay in it for 20, 30 years, what you're really doing is you're paying the bank to hide your money. When you go buy a house, you're paying the bank to hide 30 years of money. You're accumulating 30 years of money because it's the only investment that you can make that has almost zero risk, and you may come out 3, 4, 5% ahead in 30 years, but you're hiding your money. Okay, so if you look at the super rich, they go hide their money in real estate. They don't make money on the real estate. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, it's a haven for their money. So when you go to sell your house in 30 years, there's government regulations and taxes where you don't have to pay capital gains tax on your house. Or you can defer there's tax deferments that you can make if you sell it sooner and make a miraculous huge profit. Okay. But a house or an RV or a car, they don't have equity. You're either right side up or upside down. There's no real equity. Equity implies that there was some sort of investment made that has no cost or consequence. Like a savings account. You go put money in a savings account, whatever percentage, 1%, 2%, that's real equity because there's no purchase required. There's no maintenance payments required. You don't have to pay the bank to keep your money there. The bank pays you to keep your money there. That's when equity occurs. Equity occurs when someone else is paying you for your money. This YouTube channel has equity in it because equity, I have exactly $600 invested in this thing now. Okay? $600, but I don't pay YouTube. My investments is all equipment and stuff, right? So my investment this year is $600. Now I invested like 20 grand of video equipment that's all destroyed now at this point. Got a lot of years, a lot of videos out of it. But the reality is I don't give YouTube money to do this. YouTube pays me to do these live streams. YouTube pays me to do this. There's more equity in your job than there is in buying your house because you don't have to pay your employer to come in. You don't have to carry insurance to go to work. You don't have to go and give your boss taxes. You don't have to pay a tax to your employer directly to make money. That's equity. Businesses have equity. Material stuff like houses, cars, RVs, boats, TVs, cell phones. No such thing. Cell phones we carry insurance on because we could break them. Cars we have to carry insurance on in case we get in accidents. Houses we carry insurance on because you never know what'll happen. Earthquake, flood, fire. Right? So Blair, like, I know I rambled on for a little bit there, but God dang, everybody keeps telling me I should do like a finance channel, but I would just be called an idiot because these finance gurus would hate me because I wouldn't sell a course. I would just like, here, this is how it is, folks. I mean, this is what I learned being stupid for 15 years. You know, this is what I learned failing at a business I started. This is what I learned failing at being a real estate person. This is what I learned failing at my dream job. This is what I learned in failure. And instead of drinking myself half silly, I just took those lessons and went, shit, if I get one more chance at this, I know what not to do ever again. And I didn't learn it at 65, 40 years into a job. I learned it, thank God, by the time I was 40. So, anyway, I got to start Ubering. So you guys have a good night, okay? Have a good one.